Hello, everyone. It's John Lancelot. I'm a candidate for New Jersey governor this year, 2017. Hello, everyone. Here with great guest tonight, Johnathan McFarland, who's running as a Green Party candidate in St. Louis, Missouri. And we're going to be talking with him. A very fascinating guy, great guy. He's the perfect person, I think, that carried a message. And we're going to talk about a lot of the issues that we all face. And I want to say hello to everyone. We've been looking at the whole situation in the world. I know that, with the whole election of Trump, that we have been trying to figure out what to do next. And I believe that we will find the answer. And, we have to look very hard into the history of the United States. The one thing, and the main thing we're going to be talking about, is discrimination, institutional, historical discrimination in the United States. And my candidate here, Johnathan, that I'm interviewing tonight, is a prime example of courage, a profile in courage in the city, take on the issues of the people in the city of St. Louis. And I want to introduce Johnathan and have him talk about his issues. How you doing, Johnathan?
Hey, I'm all right. I'm all right. Thank you for having me on your show.
No problem. I'm also a Johnathan, but I go by John. For me, it's like, short. But it's, for as far as I'm concerned, it's the best name. And thank you for coming on to the show. And thank you for having the courage to come out and speak about the issues that affect the people of the United States. And I want you to tell the people why you got into politics, what drove you to run, and speak the political truths that the people are looking for.
Okay, that's a long story, to be honest. I worked my whole life, right? And so one day in 2007, I was erroneously fired from my job. There was a lot of history to it. I was being heavily, I guess I could say discriminated against, but I was being harassed, actually. But anyway, so I ended up getting fired. And when I got I had some incentive to call my place of employment back. And I got on the phone and I talked to the guy who fired me. And so I had asked him a series of questions. And they're mostly about like hard facts, right? Like my check was messed up. And I was like, how do I fix it? And it was along those lines. So then I just kind of snuck in the question, did you fire me because I'm black? And he said, yes, I fired you because you're black. Just like that. Just as a matter of fact as that. And I was my jaw dropped. And it kind of just set me off on a different course because I grew up Republican, and my mom more or less taught me that racism was the past, is not necessarily a problem right now, and that kind of opened my eyes to this whole new world where racism was real again. I mean, it's never actually going away, and we can see that historically it hasn't gone away. So my personal life though was shook right then and there. I actually told him. Out of anger, out of needing something to respond with, I said, you woke up a sleeping giant. And ever since then, I've been trying to motivate people to get involved in electoral politics.
Well, that is, any sort of discrimination. And I know I faced it in my life. And I know a lot of friends who have faced it. And historically, African Americans have been through a lot. Just like, Native Americans have been through a lot. And now in today's world, in the 21st century, our Latino brothers and sisters have been going through a lot. Now Muslim brothers and sisters are going through a lot. And now we come to a situation that it's affecting the rest of the world. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective on the current day, planet Earth, the way that we treat each other internationally, how much American racism has affected us in other parts of the world, and what have you seen in your city that reflects that?
Um, wow. Well, American racism is rampant in the world. I went down to Mexico. I went down to Mexico on a trip to meet with some unions down there, and they told me that NAFTA was terrible for them. This was what 2011, and they told me NAFTA was terrible for them. That American corporations were taking over stuff, and to me, that's the issue of racism. It's the issue of actually where our country is superlative to their country, and they live there, and we got a big issue with that. But in the city of St. Louis, racism is has caused like there used to be a policy of benign neglect for the African American side of the city, in which has now caused the city, the African American side of the city, to become dilapidated and to be very kind of like just raggedy, just generally speaking. There are buildings falling down, there are vacant lots, there are houses that need to be torn down, and there's no money being invested in that side of the city because it's so bad, it's so neglected and for so long. You know, it's such a hard problem to fix. But I think it's the responsibility of our city, of the mayor of our city, to fix it because we want to improve the living conditions for every citizen in our city. And if we don't do that, then we are not really a mayor for the 100% of the city. We are a mayor for the 57% of the city that live on the other side of the city. So, I mean, we need to do something about that.
I agree with you, and my question now that we've been living under a two-party system for as long as the country has been here, and the parties have changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Federalists and the Whig Party, the Democrat Republicans who split. The Whigs were, you know, the predecessor to the Republican, the GOP, which was formed by Lincoln. The Democratic Party was basically formed by Andrew Jackson. We all know historically what Andrew Jackson is responsible for.
Right.
Now, you know, we also had President Woodrow Wilson, who was also, you know, actually he was a governor of New Jersey. There was a history of racism with him, and he was a Democrat. And down in history, the two parties switched. Now we're dealing with two parties that are disconnected from the people in general. And what I'm saying is that they're disconnected from all sorts of issues that we could bring up, and we will see that both parties are just allowing things to happen. They go into towns, they get votes. Doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative, doesn't matter if you're libertarian or progressive, they'll come to your town, they'll say that how they align with you, they'll get your vote, and then they'll go back and they'll never hear from them again. So I support any independent or third party, in your case, the Green Party, you know, but I also support individuals. So to me, party doesn't really matter. And so my question to you is, what has the Democratic Party, or for that matter, the Republican Party, done for the city, for the people of St. Louis?
Well, St. Louis is historically Democratic for at least the last 60 years now. We have not seen much improvement in our city. Our Democratic mayors, you know, we have had some good ones. I can name a few. Like I like Freeman Bosley Jr. He did a lot for the north side of the city. He did a lot. He built into our city a lot of infrastructure that was very necessary to keep people off the streets and keep recidivism down. He did that, and he was not liked for doing it actually, because he did some good work for people who needed it, who didn't necessarily, who weren't the power mongers of the city. But generally speaking, like the last 16 years, we have had a Democratic mayor who has allowed the north side to become more destitute, a place where you wouldn't want to live. And our crime rate is soaring. You know, we have one of the highest murder rates per capita in the nation. Actually, we have the highest rate of murder per capita in the country. And that's a big problem for me. I don't think that we should have that. And I think there are certain things that we could do to reduce it, but also we need to take into account the history of our city and our nation as it relates to people who feel like justice is never served.
Yeah, I mean,
And
certainly there's a lot of people who are hurting out there, and we're trying to do our best within our powers as citizens of the United States to make that better. I think, more people should go into politics, and I mean, everyday people. I'm not talking about the typical Democrat or Republican types, who sort of groom themselves to running these positions. It's very important for citizens to get in touch with their local, governments, but also participate in it, run for seats, and make changes. And
right,
there's a
right,
lot of people who have come before us who have, you know, s- blood, sweat, and tears to get this country to the point it is now. And but it's not done. The work is not done, and we have to make sure that we keep going in the right direction. So, I mean, I'll tell you what my opinion is. I think I've seen the Democratic Party fail progressives over and
yeah,
over again for a long time. I think the election of Barack Obama was basically an anomaly. But what I've seen is a lot of weakness when it comes to policies, and it's sort of like you have two teams there, let's say in the Congress or in our local or state legislatures, and they're making these laws and nothing seems to work out for the people who actually need to help the Americans who are in need of a boost. And the excuse basically is, well, we don't want social programs because we believe that people are just going to be lazy. And I think that's just an extension of the distortion that's been going around about Americans for a long time. I mean, since the time of Reconstruction and the ending of slavery and the civil rights era, we fought over and over again. We fought for women's rights to vote. We fought for, you name it. We're fighting for Latinos right now. We're fighting for everyone. And what I just can't stand are people who try to ignore certain issues to get elected, and then you never hear from them again. What is your vision? And I know, and I believe in what you're telling me. I believe, what you're saying. We've had talks before this show, and I want you to tell the public what your vision is for your city, and what you intend to do.
all right. See, my vision for the city is a more inclusive democracy, and my overall goal though is to grow the population of the city. Is to really start restoring a lot of these homes that have been allowed to become ruined. But my my overall goal for the city, though, is to bring in a lot of democracy. I want to see direct democracy being used. I want to see people learning how to organize. I want to see people, regardless of their political affiliation, becoming a deeper, more deeply connected to their community. And I think that's done easily by people just meeting with each other and talking about what needs to get done and just doing it. Like if there's a tree that falls across the street, you shouldn't have to wait for the city to come fix it if you got a chainsaw in your basement. But maybe you need some gas. So your other neighbor could provide gas to cut this tree up and remove it out the street. And therefore, you guys have just done what right now we expect the government to do. But that I think it takes away from our ability to communicate with each other, and therefore we become more isolated, more individualist, and when we should be a bigger and better community because we have all the resources in the world to do so. We got the internet, we got the ability to communicate with each other faster and more directly than ever before. But we don't utilize that to our advantage. I think we are now utilizing to our disadvantage. I want to say it was Tom Brokaw who said that we have to get in front of technology. And right now, technology is in front of us. And we are a social creature. We are that. And we are not using it to our best benefit right now. And we should do that. And so that's why I plan to use the internet to allow people to have and voice opinions about issues on that are not ballot worthy. I think that'll bring a lot of people in, but because a lot of people don't use the internet, I want to see direct democracy being used. We have, when I was growing up in the city, there was a community resource center in every community. Now, since those have kind of closed down, they are right now. You can see several of them around the city that say for sale. And I would like to reopen them. Let this city have them back again, and just use those to bring communities together and so they can utilize direct democracy so they can shape their communities in the way that they see fit. And I think once you give people that, they will never give it back. So regardless of who's president, like if we have a Trump president or we have a Barack Obama president, people will never give that power back, because once you taste it, you would know the benefit of being a communal people once again.
I agree with you. And also we have to hold Congress accountable, because what I've discovered in my study of the modern monetary theory and the sovereign system, monetary system, that we actually are lucky to have, that both parties refuse to do real economics to inform the people on how to run their cities and their communities without having any trouble. And now we have in a system that's artificially restricted. And there's communities that need a boost. There needs to be new business. We're in a technology world where we have renewable energy. We have new companies coming out with new initiatives, new technology. And we could train so many people to go into a renewable economy. And that and rebuilding the infrastructure are two huge projects that this country needs to embark on, because we're behind. How do you intend to push, let's say, as mayor, push the governor and push your congressional representatives and senators in your state to say, hey, you know what? You guys, instead of spending money on defense projects that really they don't need, because our defense of America, our Defense Department is very robust, and also paying for projects to go to Mars when NASA still has to figure out how to get back to the moon, we could take that $1 billion and put it back into our infrastructure and our communities. How do you intend on communicating that to them?
Well, in the state of Missouri, we have a lot of progressive municipalities, but overall, we have a Republican state. So my intention is to go work with these more progressive municipalities and kind of form a lobbyist group in which we start pushing the efforts of renewable energy, of a better training system for a large swath of things. Like we could be producing solar panels in this state. In the Midwest right now, there is no others, like no large solar panel production happening. And we can do that for the Midwest and out of this state. And when I ran for U.S. Senate, I did a lot of research on that subject. And I mean, it's something that we should really employ. I mean, along with other things. But so lobbying for our state to become more progressive is something that I would like to see happen, because I think a lot of people are ready for it. Even the Republicans, they just, the Republicans in this state are very progressive. I can say that.
Absolutely.
But they are the majority. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, I'm agreeing with you that, you know, the wider electorate, you know, are ready for progressivism. Because, I mean, the policies I'm talking about is basically saying that labor rights are important. Working families should have the ability to say, you know what, I've been making widgets for 20 years. I'm very good at what I'm doing. I've been working with this company for a long time. I would like to go into my own enterprise. I would like to go into my own business. I would like to contribute to my community, open a shop, not be subjugated to multinational corporations without a choice. And what we're really talking about being progressive is giving the laborers, giving working families a choice. You know, you're not stuck. We want mobility for America. And that's all we're asking for. And we're asking for some more as well. We're asking for less discrimination. We want to get rid of that because it's holding our country back. There's no way that we're going to be able to advance. And let me go back to the whole space program thing, because I think that, you know, it's very important that we have a robust education system which teaches facts, it teaches science, it teaches factual history, where we have people in the world who can make decisions in an international economy and have a tuition-free college system. Where we can have more scientists and doctors and lawyers and professionals in America. And I believe the next generation of Americans, it's a very important thing for us to pay attention to. So my question to you is that how do we, and in your town in particular, how do you tend to get past if there's any barriers or, discrimination barriers that have to be broken down still after all these years? What is your plan on doing that?
To get past the discrimination barriers. Well, I feel like, like right now, because of the Mike Brown incident that happened in Ferguson, a lot of people are pushing towards that end right now. There's a lot of sympathy for African Americans. There's a lot of empathy for African Americans, and I think like the time is right now to do what's right. And Martin Luther King said that, and I have to hone that. That is what I'm doing right now. I am pushing an initiative that has been a long time in the coming, and it is to recognize the truth of American history, and in doing so, we could really allow ourselves the sympathy and empathy of what has happened to African Americans in this country, and that is, to me, we got to start teaching the correct history. We got to start teaching that if you had a self-sufficient African American community in the state of Missouri, that community was oftentimes burnt down and people were killed. And we don't have that in the history books. And matter of fact, I'm not exactly sure how to find that history, but I know it has happened in small towns such as Springfield. It has happened in other cities across our state, but I know it also happened across the nation. It has happened many times from 1910 to the 1920s. It happened many, many times in Oklahoma. We all know Black Wall Street. It happened there too. So to address this is to also say, you know what, African Americans have not had it easy in this country. It's to say that oppression has kept us from being able to achieve the goal that we could be setting for ourselves. It keeps us away from self-determination, and therefore it keeps America back. It holds all of us back because we are so busy concerned about what's happening to the next guy and how good he got it that we would rather hold somebody back than allow all of us to progress. And I think we're ready for progress, like you said. Absolutely.
And I also wanted you to elaborate because you're in Missouri and you're close to Ferguson. And we know that there was an incident in Ferguson, and people need to know it. People need to remember it. And I want to hear your perspective because when that was going on, I was up here in New Jersey, and I was very concerned on how, everything is going, basically. I mean, we want to have a country where it's fair. You want to be able to walk on the streets. Right. And be able to interact with everybody well. I mean, even police officers. You want to be able to walk up to a police officer and have a normal conversation because we're all human beings, right? So I just want you to elaborate on your perspective on what happened in Ferguson and how it affected your city.
Well, man, there's just been recent information that came out about that incident, in which it seems like the officer, Darren Wilson, seemed to be like hunting. And there's actual videotape of such things happening with police officers and African Americans in other places. I want to say the one video that we saw was West Virginia where the cop told the guy to run, and then as the guy's running, the cop pulled out his gun and shoots him in the back. We got that on video. And Mike Brown's incident was very similar to that. Mike Brown was running away, and upon realizing that the cop wasn't going to stop shooting, he turned around and ran back. Because I mean, if you got life or death choice, what you gonna do? You're gonna what's the word? You're gonna fly or fight? And he chose to fight, and I really commend him for that. I really do. I would say he died a brave person because he was like, hey, this is the max. But so now we're dealing with a place in where African Americans have been so disenfranchised that they are used to it. They were used to being treated like second rate citizens. And I think in a lot of places around the country, people are used to that. And that night in Ferguson, people were like, "I'm fed up," and I think that's been something that's been brewing in the hearts of African Americans for a long time now, because we are fed up. I mean, when President Barack Obama was elected, it inspired a lot of people to be more active. And so, I mean, and not having a direct route to that activity, we, was like looking for that outlet. And I think Mike Brown for the people in Ferguson was that. Actually, Mike Brown for the people in St. Louis, for all the people who came in from around the country, Mike Brown was that. And it was the eye opener for a lot of people who didn't recognize that these things were happening since the beginning of the United States. So I'm glad that happened. And also, I would like to say that since that has happened, a lot of people have become more involved. A lot of communities have developed. A lot of people are talking about the issue of race, and people are becoming more organized. I think that is the most important key. That when you become more organized, they can't take that back. Nobody, no matter who they are, no matter what position they hold, can take away your ability to organize. And so I'm just going to say to everybody, continue to organize, continue to build, continue to form communities, and continue to keep these structures going, because this is going to benefit you for the rest of your life. It's going to benefit your children, and you're going to see this thing going on and on and on, and we won't shut it down, and we won't let nobody shut it down. This is our future, and we're taking it.
I totally agree. I love what you just said, because it's very important that we hit these issues hard. And there's people who are very interested in the city that you're running in. I want you to give them your contact information, introduce yourself to our friends who are watching us right now, and give them your information. I'll give you a chance to do that.
All right. My name is Johnathan McFarland. I have a website. It is www.mcfarland4mayor.org. That is McFarlandFormayor.org, and that's one word. And you can reach me on my phone. My number is 314-472-5986. That phone number is always available. Please give me a call if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you. I am very active on Facebook, so you can check out my Johnathan McFarland for the mayor of St. Louis City on Facebook. I have a Twitter account, and I don't really utilize Twitter. I don't tweet. But a lot of people who support me help me out with that. So I don't necessarily get on that, but you could, if you tweet me, I'm sure it'll come back to me, and I will try to help you out or try to resolve your questions or whatever as soon as I can.
That was great, and please spread the word about this gentleman's campaign. I believe is very viable. I believe that the people will benefit from him being the mayor of St. Louis. And another thing we're going to talk about here is a very serious issue that I'm very passionate about is our water and having clean water in the United States, particularly for me in New Jersey, for make sure that children are not getting poisoned by lead. And I just want to know, Johnathan, the lead issue is, Flint blew it up into the national scene. And There's also been, news articles about what's happening in New Jersey. I mean, I know in Atlantic City, Newark, they found, lead in in children in schools, in 21 schools across New Jersey. And I could correct that later on, but I know in New Jersey they have issues with schools having lead in the pipes. And I just want to know, in Missouri, in St. Louis, what is going on with the clean water issue? I haven't even gotten to the pipelines that have the potential of destroying our water system, but what's going on in your city?
They have found 13 schools in our city. I'm sorry, what just happened? Are you hearing me all right?
I'm hearing you. You're loud and clear.
All right, good. All right, they found lead in 13 schools in our city. Um, and they started to to take out the pipes that were in those buildings, and I think that's very important. So they started bringing in bottled water, and we actually sought to remediate that problem immediately as soon as we found out, and that was right after Flint. We tested all the water in all the schools, and we tested all the water in the city, and we did find some lead in the water, but it wasn't a great deal. St. Louis has historically had good water to drink, but still, there is a high level of lead in the people who live on the north side of our city. Now, the north side of our city is, like I said, it's kind of in ruin. It looks like a war zone. There's vacant lots, large swaths of vacant lots. There's homes or buildings that's fallen down. Things are boarded up. A lot of vacancies, and these properties have a lot of lead in them, and so the dirt actually has a lot of lead in it. So when the wind blows on a dry day, it's picking up that dust and people are breathing it in. Now, it's scientific fact that if you live in an area that's contaminated, that you will eventually get contaminated with whatever it is that is contaminating the soil or whatnot around you. And so my goal as mayor of the city of St. Louis is to start remediating that soil. Now, you don't have to do much to remediate it. All you have to do is plant some good lead removing plants. And now you can't use those plants once they got lead in them, but you can start remediating that soil just by doing some good gardening, by doing some good landscaping. And I think it's best to utilize St. Louis public schools to do so, because then it teaches a science lesson with our schools and our children. It makes them scientists. It makes them more prepared for the future, because they now know that it's not all hunky-dory just because they outside playing in the dirt. And I mean, it's a lesson that I think everybody should learn, and also teaches them how to grow stuff. And eventually we'll get to the point to where we're growing good food out of good soil. And that's also a chemistry lesson, because you need certain chemistry to grow good food.
You're absolutely right. And I just want to let people know that don't let anyone tell you that clean water is not an important issue. It's laughable when people say that, but most of the human body, for an adult, it's like 75%. For children, it's more. It's about 80% of our bodies are made of water. And lead is a very pervasive. It's a neurotoxin. And if our infrastructure is killing us, the government has a responsibility to make sure that we're safe. There's no use in having a robust and putting all this money into a robust defense policy for billions, even trillions of dollars. What are we defending if people are getting poisoned here at home? Think about that.
Right.
Congress of the United States will tell you there's no money to rebuild our infrastructure. I'm talking about our piping systems, our highways, the upkeep of it. Because we're in the 21st century now, and there's a lot of old pipes around the country.
Yeah.
And they're not discussing it. But they want to say, look, we want to spend more money on tanks that the Army has refused. They don't need the tanks. But first of all, we need a healthcare for all. That is something they could do in a day. They can send that bill through in 15 days and appropriate that and make it a robust system for healthcare. But then the lead issue piles on top of that because it's not being dealt with. And I just don't understand how people are out there saying that clean water is not an issue. And I think it's something that the local governments, state governments should be talking about and pressuring Congress to say, look, we need to rebuild our infrastructure. There's no way around it. Stop telling us that you don't have the money to do it, because you're appropriating the money anyways. You say you don't have money, but then you putting up billions for NASA to get to Mars, which you're not going to be able to do probably in the next 20 years, depending on the propulsion and the study of physiology in microgravity. And that's a completely different subject. But we're talking about what's going on here. We want education. We want our children to be healthy. Johnathan, please tell me, what are we going to do to get the Congress to listen to us? I mean, this is just ridiculous.
I would like to work with the various municipalities in my state and lobby in my state for the changes that we need. But then we need to create a lobbyist pact with the various communities in our state and let them go to Congress. I remember when I was in Occupy, the unions actually bust, I would say, Occupy from the whole country. Hawaii was included. I mean, can you imagine? People from Hawaii was up in Washington, D.C., so we could lobby for the changes that we needed as I came as Occupy St. Louis, but as the whole Occupy group. And I remember we had the first Occupy General Assembly, the first national Occupy General Assembly. It was awesome. It was so much fun. We were sitting right under the Washington Monument talking about the changes that needed to be made in this country. And, they say Occupy went away, but Occupy did one great thing that nobody is really hit on. We practiced direct democracy. And in New York, they did direct democracy with 10,000 people, and it worked. And to me, for a country that is ran as a republic, and that's what we live in. We live in a republic. That is scary for the people who hold power, because if the people start taking back their power, that's one way to do it. Or that's one way they can't take back. Because people, once you give it and once you have it, you don't want to let it go. You will have it for life, and you will teach your kids how to have it too.
Absolutely. And I'm one of those people that believe that power is responsibility. It's not a hard concept. It's not hard. It's not hard. When you have power, you have a responsibility for the population that you are serving. You're a public servant. You're not a ruler. And you have to have the strategy to make sure that your population is taken care of. I mean, it's not a hard concept. Special interest and all that business, it doesn't do anything. It just perpetuates power that is tyrannical, basically. Authoritarian. Right. That's basically where our federal government's going. Look at our president. He is a style. You can't blame Trump for who he is. I mean, voters put him in there. But that's his style. And we have to know what we want. I mean, I want a country where we're working together to make our country great and better. And everyone is involved. Even the immigrants that come into this country, that's been happening for so long. We've brought people in to make sure that we're a stronger nation and we work together and we're not excluding one another. And we've been working on this for about 241 years. This country has gone very far. There's no way that we should be going backwards. Mm-hmm. And campaigns like yours is going to allow the American people to have a choice during voting time. And when is your election? When do people come out and vote for you?
It'll be April 4th. The first Tuesday of April. I'm really excited. It's 2 weeks from now, and we are doing. We need a lot in preparation over these next 2 weeks. We need a lot of donations. We need a lot of money, just to say it out flat, because we have a lot. I have a lot of volunteers willing to take out literature, but it's hard to get that lit. It's hard to pay for it, actually. So that's the big problem.
Well, you know what? I mean, I think you've gone very far. I have been on a shoestring budget, and I've done it on purpose because I want to see how, I'm out here for people. I'm not out here for money, and I know you're not out for money either. But I want to let the viewers know to spread the word about Johnathan's campaign. The way that we're going to win is that we speak about these things. And the reason why we have this show, our elections, is to make sure that candidates are supported. Third-party independent candidates, progressive candidates are supported. and we have to spread the word.
Right.
After the show, go out and tell your friends. And Johnathan, please tell us your website again so people could note it and spread it to their friends and their family and let them know that you exist. To send you money. If they have family and friends in Missouri and St. Louis, that they will be aware of your campaign and they could come and volunteer for you. That's the way we organize. We help each other out. Please, yes, bring your information out there again.
All right. It's McFarland for mayor.org. That's McFarlandForMayor.org. And my phone number again is 314-472-5986. And you can find me on Facebook at Johnathan McFarland for Mayor of St. Louis City. And that's my page. And please feel free to ask me a question on my email address, which is elect.jmcfarland@gmail.com. You can hit me up in any of those ways, and I would be pleased to respond to you, actually.
Yes, we support each other in these times to get progressives in offices so we can start making changes. We can start talking about modern monetary theory, and we turn it into a modern monetary method when it comes to policy making. And this is what we need to do. And it's an honor that you're on here with me right now, because I just very excited about your campaign. You're a Green Party candidate. I know I've contributed to the Greens, and I still do. But I'm an independent because that's my strategy. But any progressive that I feel that has the heart, I will support. And I feel that you have the heart. Can you tell us a little bit about your opponents in the Democrats and Republican parties and what they've done, or what they intend to do, and what what you tend to do better than what they're proposing?
I heard it from a great friend of mine just yesterday that I have the most people-oriented campaign, and all of my positions are more people-oriented than any of my opponents. So there is a Democratic nominee who won the primaries, Ms. Cruzen. For all intents and purposes, she's a good person, but she is endorsed by our last mayor, who was mayor for the last 16 years, and he more or less treated St. Louis as if it was a playground for people with money who lived on the outskirts of St. Louis City, and so he brought in a lot of big businesses by way of giving them tax abatements for 20 years and paying for half of the construction costs of any building they were trying to build. And that's on St. Louis's back, on St. Louis citizens' backs, because we pay for it out of pocket. That's where our tax dollars go. So, and there's a big call to stop that. But I don't see that happening with my Democratic opponent. She is going to be supportive of such endeavors to build stadiums on the back of St. Louisans who don't even, are not really interested in watching soccer. But we want to build a soccer stadium. And I don't understand that logic because the typical St. Louisan can't afford a ticket to a soccer game, and so, I mean, we more likely will watch basketball. So it's going to be more of the same. And also I should say she is alderman of the 27th ward, I believe, or the 29th. And so she has been a long time politician, and she has done things, like if you look at her record, she has done things that I don't agree with. I don't think are best for the city of St. Louis, and she will continue her mode of operation. And so my Republican opponent he has been the COO of several different energy companies, and I don't think he knows the streets. He's an African American Republican, and I don't think he knows the people as well as I do. He's kind of out like he's not been a politician, so he doesn't have a record, but or a history of what he has done and has not done. But he, I don't think is connected with the community as much as I am. And I've been a community organizer for the last 10 years of my life. I've given up my potentially lucrative career as an engineer to become a community organizer, to work with kids, to teach them about the importance of math and science, because I felt like these kids was not getting in our schools. And so I started working with them doing many projects like flying kites and I would say also we shot some rockets in the sky and did some math around that. But it's important for these kids to learn about math and science by having it applied. And I have one more opponent. There's a guy, his name is Mr. Rice. He owns a homeless shelter, and I think he's running more for the amount of money he could raise by being in the political sphere, and letting people know that they are trying to close down his homeless shelter. Mr. Rice, for all intents and purposes, is a good guy, but I don't think he has a heart for the city either. He doesn't know it as well as I do. Now, he might be running the homeless shelter, but he's not in the faces of these homeless people every day. Now, I deal every day, like when I was more involved in the community, I deal every day with homeless people. I put food on their tables. I make sure they had a place to stay. I was in Occupy, and we took in people every night who had no place else to go. And so and we stabilized a lot of people's lives. Actually, we got a lot of people who were homeless who stayed with us in Occupy have now gotten their college degrees, have gotten their lives together, have moved back home across like several states away, have gotten married, because people just need some kind of stability so they can build their lives and move forward. And that's what we provided, and that's what I want to provide to the citizens, to the homeless citizens of St. Louis City. A semi-permanent to permanent housing so people can have places to lay their head and know they got an address, and know that from their address they can find a job, or they can be better able to take their medication on a timely basis, or just better able to find themselves stable. And I think that's so important, because I've seen the effects of it, and I actually know Colorado and Utah have employed such programs, and they have been very successful. So I want to reproduce the same. So I believe I'm the best candidate. I've actually been told several times now that I'm the best candidate, and my programs are geared for the people. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for the people, because I mean, I never saw myself in the limelight before. I always thought of myself as being a guy wearing a white lab coat, working in some office, trying to, working with a microscope or something, And so I'm now running for office because I believe that I have answers, and that other people are not using, and I need to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a noble way of getting into public service. And it sounds like you're very passionate about serving the people. And I admire that, because we need more passionate people that are passionate about people. And today, we're dealing with a world that pretty much needs help. We need people who are every day getting to politics. If you read the requirements, it doesn't say that you need 8 degrees. It doesn't say that you need to go to an Ivy League school. It doesn't say that you have to have some, outlandish connections. It just has very basic requirements. And if you have the heart and you really want to work for the people, do it. Don't expect the work to be done for you. And I really admire the fact that you're taking the reins of this and going forward with it. And I really hope you get the support that you need to get, and I believe you will get that support. But even if, no matter the outcome of the election, I believe that you're going to keep going. That's with me. It doesn't matter. I'm here to keep this going, because after 2016, I supported Bernie Sanders. I was supporting Bernie Sanders. I wasn't supporting the Democratic Party. I'm an independent. I'm running as an independent, but I support Green Party and I support anybody who's outside of the two-party system. And what they did to progressives and the rest of the country, because Bernie brought independents, he brought libertarians and progressives into the Democratic Party. They would have been very strong if they didn't do these chicanery and tactics to push establishment candidates on the people, and they ended up losing to a candidate like Trump, who was an outsider, and people basically wanted something different. Right now, we're learning the fallout from that election. I don't think we had the best choice, but now we know that we have choices out there. We have candidates like Johnathan that are out there fighting the good fight.
Hey, John. I'm sorry I didn't bring my charger. My phone is down to 5% right now.
Okay. So look, thank you for coming out for this interview. I hope you get more interviews. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up tonight?
Well, I'll just say visit my website. Please ask me any questions you want. I'm here and I'm really pushing hard right now to win this election. I'm about 2 weeks out, and I got a lot of ground to make up. People recognize me. People see me. They know what I stand for. They know my past, and they know my family, because my family is deeply connected to the community. But I just need to make sure I cinch the last few wards and the neighborhoods that need to get my face, need to see my face, need to know what I stand for. So if you can help me anyway, that'd be great. And again, my website is mcfarlandformayor.org.
All right, Johnathan. I know you're low in power over there, but I think we covered as much as we could tonight. And we will be in communication. We're going to have other candidates on in the future, but I'm honored to have you to be my first candidate. And if you need any help from me or anybody else from Real Progressives, that we're here for you. And thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for allowing me on your show. I really appreciate it.
You got it. You have a good night.
All right. You too.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Johnathan McFarland. I really admire what he's doing, especially in a city has been historically had issues with race, had issues with repression, just like other cities here in the United States, and we fought long and hard against it, and now we are at it again. And I believe that our fight will win, but it will take a lot of cooperation from people of all shades and colors, of all cultures, immigrants and American citizens together. And basically, this is our country. We have to fix it. And particularly with my campaign, I believe that, we have to reach, as progressives, we have to reach out to more than just progressives. We have to reach out to libertarians and conservatives and liberals that might still be in the Democratic Party and say, look, we need to organize together. The two parties are not voting in our interests when they get elected. And basically, we have to just get past all the rubbish and, work together. And I really thank everyone for coming out and watching this and watching Johnathan. And we're going to have a show next week. And we're going to keep on going, keep on fighting the good fight. And you have a good night, everyone.